49ers update here from above Porterville, where at this time of the year, it looks like a screensaver. There is the valley, some orange trees, and of course, the sumo mandarin. Kicker update for you. Andres Borregales, remember the Miami kicker whom the 49ers met with at the Shrine Bowl? They're one of many teams who met with him. Well, Chip Flanagan, the 49ers national scout, one of them was watching very intently as Andres Borregales kicked today at Miami's Pro Day. This is a kicker who was 18 out of 19 last year. His best season. He's out of Venezuela. Went to Miami, and the 49ers are obviously looking for kicking competition this offseason for Jake Moody. We talked about that the other day. We've been talking about it all offseason. I asked John Lynch about potential competition for Jake Moody at the NFL Scouting Combine, and he said that's something that the 49ers would definitely consider. Now, they believe that Moody is very talented and that the injury, the high ankle sprain, is what got him last year because he was 14 of 15 before the high ankle sprain and just 11 of 20 after it. So the 49ers are doing what they can to get Moody back on track, but one of the tactics might be to bring in a young kicker to compete with Moody this offseason, even if they believe that Moody will win that competition. I think if you're playing it this way, as is logical for the 49ers, because there's no cost really to keeping Jake Moody right now. But if you're playing it this way, you're going to want to get a kicker at a low price. And, these kickers probably won't be drafted. Andres Borregales probably won't be drafted. Might be an undrafted free agent, in which case the 49ers might be able to lure him to sign with them if they do indeed want somebody to compete with Jake Moody this offseason. So there's your update. Here are your sumo mandarins growing in these fields in the Central Valley. What a beautiful day. 81 degrees, it's March, and the fruit is very good. Everybody take care.
Yes, it was a gorgeous day indeed. I mean, take a look at that. It's Windows screensaver season here in the San Joaquin Valley because we came down from the snow into the foothills. Here's a drone look at some of the cows. Happy cows do come from California. This is why. Look at all that grass that they have to eat. This is the time of the year where you could sell a lot of real estate in this part of California. Look, we're going to peek up over the mountains and we're going to see the snow. I could just keep this here for a while as we talk about the 49ers. Yes, they are scouting a new kicker, Andres Borregales. As I said, they scouted him. They talked to him at the Shrine Bowl. There's the San Joaquin Valley. And we're also going to talk about how sick people are of Brandon Aiyuk talk, and hopefully we'll get to avoid that altogether. I think I've covered it plenty of times. These cows are sick of Brandon Aiyuk talk. They're completely unbothered by the whole situation. I also want to get to some really good 49ers takes from my buddy Jamie. Jamie Cox, really good 49ers fan. Met him a few years ago. We've become good friends, and he loves the whole mock draft operation, which I know a lot of you guys like at this time of the year. And I think that he has some really good overarching overhead, big picture thoughts, kind of like this is a big picture look down at one of the ranches. So this is the bird's eye view. This is the bird's eye view from Jamie. And I'm going to read this from his text. He said, I know it's all hypothetical and we can't predict the draft, but he's run a ton of mock drafts on PFF. And he says, I think the 49ers have greater flexibility with their first pick than I originally anticipated. Let me know if you guys agree with Jamie. Here we go. Starting from mindset of drafting on either line first, I have now adjusted to the premise that this is truly a deep defensive line, but not top-heavy draft. And there are many hidden gems on the offensive line for the Niners' offensive scheme. They could go tight end, Tyler Warren, or linebacker, Jihad Campbell, in the first round and still hit on 5 to 6 picks without trading along both lines. So still hit on 5 to 6 picks along both lines without trading. Jamie thinks the draft is that deep. He also says, I can see why the Niners purged their roster of veteran defensive linemen. It's like take your pick of D linemen in rounds 2 through 5. He continues by saying the spot that needs to be addressed first is run defense on the interior. Sounds like he's a viewer of this channel. Get stout with picks that can command a double team, and that will open up the edges. I feel like the pass rushing up the middle is a secondary trait for this defense and not as important as occupying and clogging gaps so Bosa, the other defensive end, and the linebackers can do their jobs. That last thought is really interesting to me. Says that he thinks that pass rushing up the middle is a secondary skill set needed of this defensive line. And on one note, I do agree with him. I think that if you can't stop the run as a defense as a whole, and especially then as a defensive lineman on the interior, your pass rushing isn't going to matter all that much. We saw that happen with the 49ers last year. Malik Collins was a plus pass rusher. I think he finished ranked number 6 or 7 amongst all defensive tackles in pass rush win rate. We saw Javon Hargrave over his time with the 49ers. Now, he only played, probably 20 total games with San Francisco. But we saw Javon Hargrave with a good pass rush win rate, but the defense only declined over his time with the 49ers. And a lot of it, maybe most of it, maybe the core of it was because they were not good against the run. If you can't stop the run, again, it's going to rhyme again. I know it gets annoying. You will not have fun. You have to stymie the run game so that you have pass rushing situations. Otherwise, it's going to be 2nd and 3, 3rd and 2 all game long, and your pass rushers can't go in that situation. I mean, they're not going to have consistent opportunities to get the quarterback when it really matters. So Jamie's take was that you've got to stop the run first at that defensive tackle position. Maybe you can pick up some players in this draft in the middle rounds who are going to be good at that less flashy aspect of improving your defense because it is such a deep draft along the defensive line. And he said, Tyler Warren, Jahad Campbell in the first round, pick number 11. 49ers can go for some of those big swings. Those might be 2 of the best players in this draft if they feel that they can load up on the meat of the lines later on in this draft, because that is the consensus. Like last year, the consensus on the draft was this is a notoriously weak defensive draft, right? So the first 15 picks last year were offensive players. This year, I think the consensus is this draft just isn't as top heavy as most drafts, and it's more middle heavy. So if you feel that you've got a lot of picks from rounds 2 through 7, 2 through 6, wherever you put the limit at the middle of the draft, but I think this one, you might still be able to get really good players toward the end of it. If you feel that that's the case with this draft, you're probably going to be able to hit it out of the park. Now, your scouting has to do its job. The picks still have to be correct, but I think that's where the 49ers feel that they can be with this 2025 NFL draft. The wheelhouse is in the middle. So those are Jamie's 49ers takes. He definitely, I think, is sick of Brandon Aiyuk talk. I don't think people are sick of the 49ers scouting a new kicker. And I also can now take people into a financial discussion surrounding the 49ers. Dead money does not matter. Let's begin the 49ers cap lesson. This article up on the San Francisco Standard. Here you go. The financial fallacies surrounding the 49ers reset. I wrote about the dead money myth up on the San Francisco Standard. You could go check this out. The link is up in the description. We have a lot to talk about as far as the finances go, but my main point throughout this whole article is that the 49ers have intentionally created dead money, and they continue to intentionally create dead money. This is Luke Farrell's contract. Farrell is the tight end who the 49ers added as a blocking piece during free agency. This was one of their first signings during free agency. And as you can see, the numbers there are staggered. That is the accordion structure. Blue, green, and teal. You're moving from signing bonus to 2 option bonuses that prorate over several seasons. So the 49ers are actually pushing cap hits back into the future, all the way into 2032 intentionally in Luke Farrell's contract. he's not going to, in all likelihood, not going to be on the team that long. He's only under contract through 2027, and the guarantees run out after 2025. So what this tells us is that the 49ers know that this contract is going to create dead money, because all money that you pay to a player has to hit the salary cap at some point. But the 49ers have purposefully deferred money in this contract and any other contract that they've done that's been sizable over the course of the past several years. Basically, since the Jimmy Garoppolo deal in 2018, the 49ers have stretched out bonus money like an accordion into the future, knowing that it's going to come back and hit its dead money later on. You could think of it as a bar tab. You're going to have to pay for it no matter what. And then once you close out, once that player's contract is terminated, once you're moving on from him, or in the case of Kyle Juszczyk, once you close out the tab, but then come back to the bar and order another juice, well, you've got to pay the tab of the cap money that hasn't hit your books yet. But it doesn't matter, because you have opened up space that you've been enjoying in the time being, right? By pushing the cap hits forward, you have more space in the present day. Unused cap space carries over from year to year, so it's all coming from the same pool. So a lot of people are misunderstanding dead money, and they're saying, oh, the 49ers have a huge load of dead money. Oh, this is terrible. It's not. It was intentionally put there. The vast majority of it was created by the 49ers, because that's how they are surfing the wave of the salary cap. Anyway, I thought that there's so many different myths that I just had to shoot down, and I successfully did. Is the 49ers 2025 accumulation of dead money a big deal? No. So even the Kyle Juszczyk release and re-sign didn't hurt the 49ers? Nope, it didn't hurt the 49ers. Well, why then have the 49ers found the need to rein back their spending? Well, that has to do with their performance on the football field. They're trying to get younger. They're trying to get faster. They're trying to get healthier. They're trying to get better, period. The ROI was no longer there for the 49ers when they were spending league-high cash, $335 million in the 2024 season. But you can see the 49ers right now are still ranked number 15. I can make this bigger if you guys want me to in a second. But the 49ers at number 15 with $253 million in cash spent for this 2025 season are still spending more than the rest of the NFC West. Arizona at $240 million. They're at number 23. LA at $229 million. They're number 24. Seattle at $143 million. They are number 32. If we want to have this bigger up on the screen, here you go. You could see where the 49ers specifically are. Number 15 at $253 million. Now, this is cash spent on the season. If they pour out $60 or $70 million to Brock Purdy via signing bonus, even if he's on a base minimum salary for 2025, that's going to up this over $300 million. So you could see that there's a very good chance by the time the 49ers pay out Brock Purdy, pay out George Kittle with new contracts this offseason, that they're going to be number one in cash spend again. So people who are calling the 49ers cheap, they just don't understand NFL finances. People are complaining about the dead money. They don't understand the numbers. I think it's important to actually grasp this stuff, research this stuff, look how the NFL works, understand that it's a young man's league. This is something that a lot of people, I think this escapes them. Guess what the average age of the NFL player is? It's 26 and a half years old. So say that somebody graduates college at 21 or 22. 21's probably on the early end. But at 22 years old, you're a senior in college, you enter the NFL, your rookie deal is 4 years long, right? So say that you play out your rookie deal from 22, average age of entry, to 26. You, at the end of that rookie deal, when you're signing your second contract, you're hitting the average NFL player's age. You're going to be older than the average NFL player a year into your second contract. And as we know, it is a young man's league, as that 26 and a half average age tells us. It is a young man's league. And because it's a young man's league, older teams are going to get exposed. I think that you can ride that wave of an aging roster if you have a lot of superstars and you're just trying to kick a door down. And that's where the 49ers were. But at a certain point, the ROI of paying guys that are very flawed, like Leonard Floyd or Malik Collins, when we talk about the run defense, paying guys a lot of money, that would have been $10 million for both of those players this year, is going to hit an ROI wall, a return on investment wall. And we saw that for the 49ers in 2024. They're number 29 in run defense, number 26 in overall defense. They're not getting the job done. The defense can't get much worse than the absolute crater job that the 49ers showed at the end of the season. So they're saying we got to get back under 26 and a half years old on average. We have to dig deep into the youth infusion that this draft can be. And this draft does appear particularly strong along the defensive line. So it just happens to work out for the 49ers that this is a really, really good year to renovate. They have a league high 11 picks. And no, dead money doesn't matter. It just means they've closed out the tab on Leonard Floyd, whose cap hits they intentionally pushed into the future. They've closed out the tab on Malik Collins, whose cap hits they intentionally pushed into the future. They've closed out the tab on other guys who they didn't re-sign. The one who they wanted back was Dre Greenlaw. For various reasons, they weren't able to get him back. But end of the day, Dre Greenlaw's availability wasn't something that was part of a stellar track record, right? I mean, great player, but he hadn't been available all too often for the 49ers, especially in his contract season. So they're trying to get younger. They're trying to get healthier. They're trying to get more durable. They need to be better than they were last season, and it's going to be hard not to be better because of how bad that defense was. It is just a natural flow of how the NFL works. So I debunk all of these misunderstandings. And just to be honest, there's a lot of idiotic theories out there regarding money and the 49ers spending. Like, they've been in the top 5 in spending more often than not since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch took over. The idea that all of a sudden they've gotten cheap is frankly absurd. They're, again, especially since they're on track to be a top 5 spending team again. Sometimes facts matter more than feelings. And on this channel, facts always matter more than feelings. A lot of this is emotionally driven. The people who are pushing it are trying to get a rise out of you because they need help with their viewership. And I don't think that we need that here. I think that we can stick with the actual numbers, which indicate that the 49ers are running a financial reset that we expected. You know, another thing is people always act surprised with every single move that the 49ers make. And my first sentence here was, nearly a month ago, General Manager John Lynch outlined the 49ers offseason strategy at the NFL Scouting Combine. Since then, the 49ers have proceeded in the manner Lynch hinted they would. He literally told us in late February at the Combine, he told us that spending would be down. Obviously, near-term dead money totals would be up because if spending is down, you're closing out bar tabs. That means you got to pay it now. Dead money is going to be up. 49ers have plenty of cap space to pay off the dead money right now. It's not a big deal. And the roster, with 19 spots still open following the primary waves of free agency, is ready for the youth infusion that'll come via April's NFL draft. So why then, when we were told that all of this would happen in February, if we're paying attention, why then are people acting so damn surprised every time that the 49ers make one of the moves that actually corresponds with the plan? It's not that difficult to decipher. Now, how aggressively they go after the NFL draft remains to be seen, and that's why I bring in the Rams example. Now, the one thing that the 49ers have going for them, there's 2 things actually that they have going for them above the Rams in this rebuild. There are a lot of parallels, right? Mirror image in many ways. But the Rams went full pedal to the metal with the draft. I talked about the 36 rookies they had in training camp. I talked about the 14 draftees who made the team in 2023 after they went 5-12 in 2023 after they went 5-12 in 2022. I talk about all the rookies that filled up the defensive line, how different it looked this past season with draftees versus the 49ers one, which was filled with free agent mercenaries, and it didn't work out for San Francisco. There's so many parallels, but one thing that's different in the 49ers' favor between the 49ers model and the Rams model is the quarterback position. Big time in the 49ers' favor. And this is something that has a lot of people kicking and screaming and upset because they're relying on their feelings instead of actual factual data. But Brock Purdy is a whole lot better than Matthew Stafford at this point of both of their careers. Matthew Stafford had the great year in 2021, where he was already in his mid-30s. He's now 37 years old, and over the course of the past 3 seasons, Stafford is ranked number 18 out of 26 qualifying quarterbacks in efficiency. And it's not like one year's been really good and another year's been really bad. It's been 15 to 20 for Matthew Stafford over 2022, 2023, and 2024. Obviously, that's when Brock Purdy came into the league, 2022. He's been number 1 since that time. Purdy is 25. Matthew Stafford is 37. So one of these teams that's executing this draft forward formula has a young quarterback on the rise who's been number 1 in efficiency ever since he joined the NFL. Those are just facts. That's not an opinion. Those are all facts. And another team has a quarterback who's 37 years old, who has declined significantly since his peak year winning a Super Bowl with the Rams in 2021, who's since lost his top receiver from that year in Cooper Kupp, who had also undergone a big decline, and whom the Rams flirted with moving on from this offseason. The Rams, they were literally thinking about trading Matthew Stafford this offseason because they weren't sure if they're going to be able to find financial parameters that reflected the decline that we've seen while they're building this young roster around him. So anyway, the Rams have been able to pick themselves off the dirt, even with past his prime Matthew Stafford, while the 49ers are going to try to do this, execute something really similar with a quarterback who is just now entering or heading toward his prime in Brock Purdy. Those are the facts. That's how the last 3 years have gone. I mean, you even watched the Thursday night game between the Rams and the 49ers. That was one of the toughest sledding games that Brock Purdy had. And had the 49ers not dropped, 2 or 3 potential Matthew Stafford interceptions, 49ers still would have won that game. So it just goes to show you that it's about the entire team effort. And I think that the 49ers believe they can put themselves in really, really good position because they have a quarterback that can truly drive things, who has driven things for this team. They just have to not be terrible defensively, shore up the offensive line, make sure they actually have a running game this year after all the injuries last year scuttled that, and get some separation at receiver because they ranked number 32 last season. Let's go back to this right now. I really, was just mesmerized by some of the scenery today. The happy cows come from California. This is good. This is a good backdrop to talk about 49ers news. Let's get some of your questions in there. This, by the way, is just east of Lindsay, California. Shout out to those of you in Lindsay. Shout out to those of you in Porterville. Shout out to those of you in Strathmore. If you have a town that you want to shout out for, just let me know in the comment section. But this is your show today. Yesterday, too. But today, we're showing all these spots, especially at this time of the year. What was it today? March 24th. Yeah. If we get another April snowstorm, or well, it's probably not a snowstorm, but if there's a rainstorm here in California, in the Central Valley over the course of April, it'll stay green a little bit longer. Wouldn't that be nice? Because this was just absolutely epic today. I'm ready for your questions. Whatever towns you guys want me to shout out to, I'm happy to do that as well. Extraordinary. The hills are alive with the sound of music. They are. Shout out to San Diego. Well, we're not in San Diego right now. My cousin's getting married. Shout out to Clayton in San Diego a little bit later this year during football season. Now I'm still waiting for the 49ers schedule to come out. Hopefully it coincides, or it doesn't coincide. Hopefully it works well with that event. But yeah, he's getting married down in San Diego. That's going to be coming in October. Franchise and analysis of everything. You are right. That's what I'm working on right now. That's up, by the way, this is up on the San Francisco Standard. The link is in the description to this article. Now, this is the old article. That's this one right here. The 49ers dead money myth, debunking the fallacies about their financial reset. This is the one that everybody should go and check out. That's up today. Mike put it into the description. And there's a lot to go over. And there's just been so much misunderstanding and just straight up, just ignorance regarding what the 49ers are doing. It's like, guys, let's have some maturity about this. Let's look at this with Occam's razor. I like to use a lot. The simplest explanation is usually the true one. The 49ers still have 7 All-Pros on their team. They're not going to just let a ton of players walk if they think that that's going to make their team worse over the long run. They have to look at this from a short-term and a long-term perspective. They were so heavy on the short term in 2024, and it just didn't work out. I think that's the main thing. People are acting like the 49ers had some kind of powerhouse team last year. It was the same people that were complaining about their performance in 2024 also complain about them making changes ahead of 2025. And it's like, well, pick one. At some point, it just becomes very apparent that people want to complain instead of having an intelligent discussion about strategy. And we could talk about the moves that have worked. We could talk about the moves that haven't worked. We can talk about the likelihood of moves working in the future. The draft is something that we're going to be starting to focus on now. So Jamie's takes that we had a little bit earlier were, I think, really insightful to look at, because I think they summarized a lot of what we had been talking about and what we will be talking about over the course of the next month. I do think this is an extremely deep line from the defensive line perspective, and I think that colors the 49ers' action so far in free agency with a lot of context. Kurt says, every offseason, the 49ers' sky is falling. It never fails. Yep, and people never fail to be wrong. So I think this is why this channel's the biggest 49ers channel by far, is because we just keep it real. Keep it objective, keep it real. Don't have to sit here and yell and complain. There are actual facts that we can go through. And it's part of why I wrote what I did today up on the San Francisco Standard. I think that it's just important to, as much as the 49ers are hitting the financial reset, I need to hit the sanity reset with some of the fan base that's going crazy. So go ahead and read that. The link is in that description. I've also tweeted it out a few times today on my X account. Thinking that Brandon Aiyuk's value is low. I didn't want to get too far into Brandon Aiyuk talk, as the title suggested, but yeah, he's got a torn ACL and MCL. He's recovering from it, but if a team is out or wary of that at the current moment, they're probably going to be wary of that all the way up until they see Aiyuk playing a game and ease some of their worries, right? There's not much he can do right now while he's still rehabbing to increase his value on a trade market. That's just the way that it is. And I think that's why the 49ers just have to accept reality in all likelihood. And that is that they're in a bit of a bind in that situation. Niners might trade back to get more picks to fill in all these positions. Maybe. I mean, or they could trade back up into the first round and grab 2 premium defensive tackles. I talked about it with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant the other day. What I'm trying to do here over the course of the next month is just talk strategy, illustrate different tactics the 49ers can use, a lot of which they probably won't even know until draft day. They're discussing all the possible routes that they can take. It's this big decision tree, right? But it all will depend on who's there at number 11, or if somebody's knocking on the door for pick number 11, if somebody wants to trade with you. And it's a combination of those 2 variables, right? You look at the players available. You look at who probably will be available in a few picks. You'll see, what's the return going to be if we slide down a few picks? Can we get back into the first round at the end of it? Okay, maybe the 49ers do that. Or, maybe you can get back into the first round even while keeping number 11, even if you trade something else or a future pick. I mean, it could get very complicated. And I understand that people love executing their perfect mock draft, but it's just like a bracket. I think that 1 out of like 42 million brackets is still intact right now. And it will get blown up at some point this next weekend during the March Madness. There are so many possible permutations of how this is going to work in the draft that you can't firmly project anything right now, but you can talk about general strategy and possibilities. And that's why I thought that Jamie's text today was so good. Just, talking about the premise that this is truly a deep defensive line, but not top heavy draft. And there are many hidden gems on the O line. I thought that was a good point too for the Niners offensive scheme. We're going to be talking about some of those hidden gems like Charles Grant on the O line over the course of this week. But again, Jamie said the 49ers could go for a tight end like Warren or a linebacker like Jahad Campbell in the first and still hit on 5 or 6 picks along both lines later in the draft. That might be aggressive. They may not be picking that many times on both lines, but I understand his point. And I think we should all take it with welcome arms because it does appear that that's the way that the 49ers are thinking about this. What happened to the stream yesterday? Margot called, and when I'm streaming from my phone, as I was yesterday from the backyard, any phone call that happens just makes my screen go black. I think you guys might have still heard me, but I couldn't see anything. Maybe it went black for you guys on your end. It might have frozen. And I said, hey, we've already gone 30 minutes. It's time to cut the stream. That's what happened yesterday. Back to the top of the show. Those of you just joining, we've got some 49ers news. We talked about the kicker whom the 49ers worked out. Why don't you guys take a look?
49ers update here from above Porterville, where at this time of the year, it looks like a screensaver. There is the valley, some orange trees, and of course, the sumo mandarin. Kicker update for you. Andres Borregales, remember the Miami kicker whom the 49ers met with at the Shrine Bowl? They're one of many teams who met with him. Well, Chip Flanagan, the 49ers national scout, one of them was watching very intently as Andres Borregales kicked today at Miami's Pro Day. This is a kicker who was 18 out of 19 last year. His best season. He's out of Venezuela. Went to Miami, and the 49ers are obviously looking for kicking competition this offseason for Jake Moody. We talked about that the other day. We've been talking about it all offseason. I asked John Lynch about potential competition for Jake Moody at the NFL Scouting Combine, and he said that's something that the 49ers would definitely consider. Now, they believe that Moody is very talented and that the injury, the high ankle sprain, is what got him last year because he was 14 of 15 before the high ankle sprain and just 11 of 20 after it. So the 49ers are doing what they can to get Moody back on track, but one of the tactics might be to bring in a young kicker to compete with Moody this offseason, even if they believe that Moody will win that competition. I think if you're playing it this way, as is logical for the 49ers, because there's no cost really to keeping Jake Moody right now. But if you're playing it this way, you're going to want to get a kicker at a low price. And, these kickers probably won't be drafted. Andres Borregales probably won't be drafted. Might be an undrafted free agent, in which case the 49ers might be able to lure him to sign with them if they do indeed want somebody to compete with Jake Moody this offseason. So there's your update. Here are your sumo mandarins growing in these fields in the Central Valley. What a beautiful day. 81 degrees, it's March, and the fruit is very good. Everybody take care.
It was really good. It was really, really good. I'll keep my video small there in the corner. You guys can enjoy the scenery here on this beautiful Monday. It's actually, the owners' meetings are coming up on next Monday and Tuesday, maybe even stretching into Wednesday. I think I'll be out of town by Tuesday afternoon before we head to Montana. But, the news cycle should pick up. It's going to be right around the time of the April 1st trigger date for so many 49ers contracts. I actually made a full list of a lot of the contracts that will have triggers in them on April 1st. We should go over that right now. Nick Bosa, $22.68 million base salary in 2026 becomes fully guaranteed on April 1st. Obviously, the Brandon Aiyuk option is due on April 1st, and a 2026 option is guaranteed that season as well. So that's a big date for Brandon. Yetur Gross-Matos sees $3 million of his 2026 25 salary guaranteed. Christian McCaffrey's already seen his option come due. That was on March 17th. Deommodore Lenoir has $6.5 million more becoming fully guaranteed on April 1st. Colton McKivitz is getting $2.2 million fully guaranteed on April 1st. And George Odom has $1 million guaranteed coming on April 1st. So there is a chance that the 49ers move on from George Odom. They have signed Saran Neal. That's like the next big inflection point date. If you're wondering, when are more 49ers moves going to come? Well, April 1st is a day when we can start firmly talking about some of the activity on this roster. That is next Tuesday. It is currently March 24th. So next Tuesday, April 1st, is a big day in that regard. So keep your eyes peeled for all of that. Meanwhile, I'm moving back to the Q&A. Seven days to trade Aiyuk in his red shorts. That's funny. Invader 49er always has funny comments. He's a good football fan. And I do agree. If you're the good football fan when they recognize that Colton McKivitz, who's not a great tackle, but you recognize that he's playing well relative to what the 49ers are paying him, right? $4 or $5 million a year. You guys see how much offensive linemen are going for now? McKivitz scored better than Aaron Banks this past year, and Banks is now being paid over $19 million per year. Just a little bit of perspective. And there are tackles making even more than that. I think the 49ers, that is not the biggest problem that they have, right tackle. There are other big problems for San Francisco that need to be addressed along this offensive line. And I think that the interior outside of Dominic Pooney last year was much more concerning to me than the right tackle position. I mean, they can rework Aiyuk's contract, but nothing in these coming years is, going to make a difference to their cap situation or to what they owe. He's got guaranteed money coming this year. It was essentially 2 years fully guaranteed plus a third year that triggers into a full guarantee on April 1st. So that's going to happen. And obviously, like Brandon Aiyuk is not going to say, yeah, I want to rip that up and throw it away. He's protected by those guarantees, so he's incentivized to keep them. So if you're going to rework anything, it's going to be base salary in later years. But that's only if Brandon Aiyuk remains on the team in those years and you want to restructure the deal for a better cap hit. But you're stuck with the guarantees as they are right now if you're the 49ers, which is why if you can trade them away, if you don't want Brandon Aiyuk on the team anymore, then yeah, you think about doing that. But it's also why other teams aren't necessarily incentivized to trade for Brandon Aiyuk because they would inherit the guarantees on that contract. No, I do not think the 49ers should trade Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is a foundational pillar of this team. They're renovating this team. This is not a rebuild. If you're rebuilding a team fully, then you're getting rid of your foundational pillars. Those are the guys who are A-list performers who you believe will be A-list performers for you moving into the future. If you want to bet against Christian McCaffrey, be my guest. I don't think that you're going to win that gamble. But Christian McCaffrey is, again, one of the 49ers A-list pillars, just like Brock Purdy, just like Kyle Juszczyk, who were just able to re-up, just like Trent Williams, just like Nick Bosa, just like Fred Warner. And hey, maybe Brandon Aiyuk reemerges as an A-list pillar for this football team. But they are not in the business of letting go of the guys who are shaded in yellow this offseason. Deommodore Lenoir is another one. They want to add Malik Mustafa. They've got maybe more A-list pillars than any other team in football. And you'll notice that the guys that they let walk were guys who they believe they can replace as foundational pillars of this team, or guys who weren't really foundational pillars anymore. I mean, Charvarius Ward's top season with the 49ers was 2023. A lot of tragedy, right? It was a bad year for him in 2024 off the field. It was really tough. And the 49ers, even entering it, figured they weren't going to be able to keep him because they thought he'd price himself out of their market, and he did. So they drafted Renardo Green. They're hoping that Green can become the other, really top corner. And they want two. They had Ward and Lenore. Lenore surpassed Ward last year. Now they hope that Renardo Green can show up and go toe-to-toe with Diamond Lenore as far as the performance metrics. Dre Greenlaw out the door for the 49ers. This is a position that I consider a hole. That is why it is shaded in red. So I think that you're going to see San Francisco either attack it through the draft or, who knows? Maybe D. Winters can graduate into that role over this offseason. Maybe they do pick Jihad Campbell. Nick Bosa, A-list pillar. They've been looking for a defensive tackle, A-list pillar for a while now. Eric Armstead was that piece, and then his play started declining. He got hurt. They let go of him after 2023. This is a good draft to potentially find somebody to complement Nick Bosa as a foundational piece. I've always argued that the interior line should have a foundational piece too. You've got Trent Williams out on the exterior. What do you do at one of the other positions? Maybe Dominic Pooney emerges into that. I've always thought that center is a position that's worth investing in. They obviously weren't in big on the Drew Dahlman sweepstakes, so they're going to look at a Brendel, Matt Hennessy competition at center. We'll see what happens in that situation. We'll see if the 49ers add there through the draft. Kittle, now augmented by Farrell, blocking tight end, wide receiver, a lot on Brandon Aiyuk. But hey, maybe Juwan Jennings, maybe he deserves an honorary foundational pillar highlight. If the 49ers re-sign Juwan Jennings this offseason to an extension, he only has 1 year left, I'm going to highlight him in yellow. He'll get the full-time foundational pillar designation. For now, I'm holding off. I feel wide receiver is still in a state of flux, and I've got red there, which indicates that I think there's still a hole that the 49ers need to fill. McCaffrey, Juszczyk, Purdy. No, they shouldn't trade Christian McCaffrey. He's a foundational pillar. That is not what the 49ers are doing here. They're trying to find the inefficiency around the pillars, and they're trying to make that young, hungry, and cost-efficient. That's how you build a good football team. Yeah, it's not that hard to build escape hatches into NFL contracts. The 49ers are really good at it, especially with April 1st date. But the NFL, generally, it's set up to be a team-friendly league as far as contracts go. Now, QBs have become the exception because the leverage that they have, the good QBs, it's hard to get out of those deals. And, Deshaun Watson's. That was an outlier, though, all fully guaranteed. But edge rushers like Nick Bosa, that was a groundbreaking deal when he was able to get 3 years of guarantees from the 49ers. Receivers have increasingly started getting more player-friendly deals. But the 49ers were able to execute that Brandon Aiyuk deal with a relative escape hatch, except in the case of a major injury. And what happened is a major injury. So that was too bad for the 49ers. That makes a potential escape hatch much more complicated. They have to re-sign Jennings. I think it'd be a great move to do that this offseason. All right, guys, everybody, thanks for watching. Make sure you go to the San Francisco Standard, debunking fallacies about the 49ers financial reset. We went over a lot today, including the kicker that the 49ers are looking at. So good stuff. On to Tuesday. Back to San Francisco, driverless car stuff tomorrow. Maybe we'll get some 49ers news here over the next couple days to spice things up ahead of the owners meeting. So it helps a lot if you go ahead and you hit that subscribe button. If you go ahead and hit the notification bell. And if you've already done that, go and hit the like button. Seriously, do it right now. Biggest 49ers channel there is. You guys are awesome. It's been fun. Shout out to the 559. Shout out to the 209. What is it? 661 down in Bakersfield. Anybody in the Valley, you get a shout out today because that's where this show is coming from. Next time, well, maybe we'll talk to you from here tomorrow, but I'll be flying up to San Francisco and we're going to be back into the 49ers original home territory coming up for the rest of this week. Thanks for watching. We will talk to you soon.